Well, we're here today. We're going to be talking about wheat. Everybody likes their breads and everything, but something in our culture's popped up. Everybody talks about it, gluten. And we have here Sarika Cernahouse.
Yes,
How are
sir.
you today?
I am well. Thank you for having me.
You are the person to talk to, I hear. I read about it, and you know everything, right? About wheat and gluten. We got to know.
Goodness.
Well, because we hear about it now. I
Yeah.
don't remember it as a child,
Right.
but now there's people who can't have gluten. And why is that? Why is that becoming a popular thing now?
Well, we have to go back to what it is that gluten is to begin with. Gluten is a protein. It's a normal part of wheat. It's also a normal part of spelt and rye, of kamut. These are more ancient grains.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah, those are definitely some ancient grains. They're early derivatives of wheat, but they all do contain gluten, and sometimes even some oats, based on where they're processed. Those can contain gluten
So it's
as
natural.
well. It is a totally naturally occurring portion of the wheat. It's a protein, and the problem with it is it can be difficult to digest for people. And if you have ever made any type of wheat bread, okay, you'll notice that maybe some gets on the tea towel that you're wiping your hands with. You go to wash that, you can actually put that in the washing machine, and it's amazing how that can even stay stuck to that. Gluten has a gluey texture to it. Gluten, exactly. And that's why it's so good for making breads, because it has this softness, this pliability, and an ability to hold things together. But the issue lies in eating too much of it. And in modern day society, that is pretty much what we're doing. We are leaning so heavily on convenience foods these days.
Oh, that's a fact. We know that. We talk about it here.
Well, and it's true. I mean, it is something that, whether it be pizza or donuts or bagels or bread, it's everywhere. It's in everything that people are eating. And so because of that, we're getting so much more of this than we once did. And as a result, people are really starting to show some issues with this.
Really?
And that's where you hear about the term celiac disease.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, and that's where a person is truly sickened from gluten. I mean, you can have a small child who doesn't know that they have this gluten intolerance to the degree that they do, that if the parent feeds that child a gluten-containing food, then that small child can do vomiting, you can have diarrhea. It's an incredible upset to the small intestine.
Well, you've had experience with this with your family, am I correct?
I have, yes.
And tell us about that.
Well, my son, when he was about 3 years old, he would catch a cold, and then he would continue to not get over the cold. And I practiced natural medicine. I was doing the things that I thought were appropriate.
Of course.
Absolutely. His favorite food to eat was sprouted wheat toast with butter. And so he would eat that all throughout the day. And then we got word that my husband and his family had a confirmed case of celiac very close to his lineage.
Okay.
And so for that reason, I thought, well, you know what? Let's go ahead and pull the gluten out. Let's see how he does. Not kidding. I mean, within days, it was amazing.
Excellent.
How my son went from being this child with runny noses to clear. It's amazing.
And you pretty much, you're feeling that's comfortable, that's the gluten.
That was the only change that I made.
Really?
That was the only change. I really felt like I was doing everything else very, very well.
And we do, because that's what we're taught. And
That's right.
even when we get back to more homeopathic, natural medicines, we're taught certain things.
Yes.
Well, then my question is, does it have to do with the wheats now? Because we were talking before about the ancient wheats and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And again, I never heard about it. I never heard about anyone needing to get rid of their gluten until I'd say the last 10 or 15 years.
Correct.
So,
Right. And I do think that it has a lot to do with the wheat that we have now.
I know where you're going with it.
Yes, my concerns are with the agricultural process as it is.
Yeah.
We're trying to feed a lot of people some very simple foods in all of these wheat-based products that we feed our children. And so the strains of wheat that we are creating, they do tend to be higher in gluten to begin with, because we like that soft pliability in the breads and whatnot that we're eating. But then you add to that the compounding issues of pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. These wheats are then stored in silos where they're needing to put pesticides and whatnot all surrounding that. And then they grind huge amounts of this wheat, and they leave it just ready to be used for something. Well, wheat has oils in it, and
Right.
that can go rancid very easily. And the more surface area, creating flour, that you expose to oxygen, the greater the likelihood of rancidity
Right.
developing. And so it's a host of reasons.
Wow. And also GMOs.
Oh, that's a good
See,
one.
because
Yes.
I think you've spoken about it, or maybe someone in our studio here talked about there is a wheat, a Mediterranean wheat
Yes.
that you can use, and the people who have celiac or can't use gluten, it
Yes.
doesn't affect them.
And that's incredible.
That is.
That is such a wonderful thing. And that might be a variety of wheat that is inherently lower in gluten, which would be wonderful. And not to mention that there are other anti-nutrients that block our digestion in any grains, nuts, seeds.
Right.
And so it can also have to do with the preparation technique of how it
Could
is
be.
that those people are actually preparing the wheat so that they can hopefully break down those proteins and those anti-nutrients into smaller, more digestible portions.
Yeah, I mean, GMOs are talking about that because what you're having here is it's all about the money. It's all about expediency. We talked about getting it to everybody, and our society's changed a lot.
It has.
But I see a lot. We talk about a lot on here. About getting back to more natural things.
Yes.
But how can you live without wheat? Because it's in everything. It's in your pasta. It's in everything. You look in there.
I know, and we have done it, and we have lived to tell. It's all right. We've done it
Lived to tell without
we
wheat.
have,
All right, good to know.
because we have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and we have done it. This is the flip side to all of this mania about gluten. Is
Right.
there are plenty of gluten-free products that are available
yeah.
on the market now, and so if it is just gluten that a person is trying to reduce in their diet, the options are limitless. So you can go to these gluten-free products that are created to be something like a gluten-containing product. But in our family, I really found that what I enjoyed doing was even moving beyond that and finding my own creative spark. Leaning on other carbohydrate type sources, things that have no gluten in them, but that still have a lot of nutrition in them.
Okay.
And so we would use red potatoes or sweet potatoes or hard winter
like all
squash.
those.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
these
It's
are
good
wonderful
stuff.
things.
Yeah.
It's so good, and the kids get a full spectrum of nutrients that they maybe wouldn't
I'm
otherwise be
doing
eating.
good then.
Yeah.
I'm introducing
Love
all that
it.
stuff in there.
Love it.
That's great. Well, I mean, it's just, I say it all the time, a lot of information. But, I mean, it is good information
Yeah.
because it's stuff I didn't know about. I didn't know what gluten really was.
Sure.
You've been wonderful. Thank you very much.
Oh,
And you have a
thank you.
website?
I do. It's naturallylivingtoday.com.
naturallivingtoday.com.
Yes.
You get all this information on there, don't you?
Yeah. Oh, and then some.
And then some. It's been great. There you go. It's been a good one today. I like that.
Thank you.